Hi, everybody. So I have Dana here with me today, my good friend, and we're going to be talking about soul changes. And she's going to continue this conversation on her channel. So make sure you go ahead and subscribe to her channel below. But we're going to talk about walkouts, walk-ins, braiding of souls, and aspects and that come down from your higher being. But she's recently had a pretty profound experience, and she's going to tell us about that today. Hi, Dana.
Thank you, Honey, and thank you for having me.
Oh, I'm so glad you're
Yes.
willing to do it. Yeah.
Yeah. There was a day when I noticed things changing. And it was a day when I was actually physically very weak, to the point that actually a family member asked me on the night before that, do I need to call an ambulance to you? And during the first day, I noticed myself having enough strength to walk across a room, which I didn't have the day before. Now, nothing had changed outwardly, and logically thinking, I should have been even weaker than the day before. And come the day after that, I was already capable of leaving the house because we sorely needed to get some groceries and get some things from the shop. So that was available, and that was quite extraordinary. It was, well, almost like a miracle healing, not as much that I was feeling quite well and strong yet, but throughout the day, I was receiving guidance, even starting from where to park. And almost miraculously, I found out that always straight in front of the shop, there was a parking spot available for me. And I was told where to go and get, say, the smoothie, just so that I don't faint while I walk through the shop. And I was told what to eat and what to get because I wasn't, strong enough to start cooking yet. So I was basically shown visions of different shops where to go to and get what I need. And there was also a moment or few when I was in a shop that I don't usually frequent, but they have fantastic interior decoration aisles and beautiful rows and rows of candles and stationery and all the good stuff and yarn that I'm very drawn to. So what happened was that I actually heard a male voice very sternly saying, I've seen your place. You don't need anything. You have all the yarn you will need for the rest of your life. What you need is to get this, and that, and then get to the car and not waste any of your energy in these aisles where you don't really need anything from. And I was like, oh my goodness, it's like I have a cranky husband with me telling I don't need any extra faff to the to the house. But it's proven to be quite remarkable. I noticed from that day differences in several things. There was difference in the cadence of speaking. There was very strong how could I say, guidance to, if I'm doing one thing and then another thing happens, I will finish the first thing before I start the second thing. Or say I don't pick up a phone when I'm in the middle of doing something, if I can clear that situation via email. Because I was told those people don't need you right now. You need to get this thing done for you. And those people can wait for your email. So there's almost like there's a big boss in town. And ever since I've managed to only purchase one scented candle. And that was only because it was in a very close proximity. And I don't know what I'm going to do because it's nearly finished now.
So let's talk about who this guy is a little bit.
Yeah.
So
He's
basically
wonderful.
you had a braid that happened, right? Like you have
Mhm,
a beautiful fairy that lives inside of you, right? And that there was a being that came in to basically live inside of you with her
mhm.
and balance her femininity with some masculinity. And that being didn't do a great job.
No,
So that male masculinity got exited. And then you
I'm
got
proud
in
to
a
say
new
he
one.
was barely a masculinity.
Yeah. So this new one is a strong being.
Very.
And he's really been helping you so much.
Yes,
And your
he
fairy
has.
has been healing, throughout this process. But
Mhm.
I just, I mean, it's kind of an amazing event that's happened,
It is.
I'd
It is.
say. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
how, like, I don't want to talk too much about the one who was kind of a negative
Inadequate.
Nelly,
Mhm,
but he wouldn't stay in your body like he was supposed to. So, he wasn't keeping you protected.
mhm.
Yeah.
That is true.
Yeah.
But
And
they too had a contract with my fairy queen.
right.
So it's almost ironical. She had the same lessons to learn that I've had lessons to learn in this lifetime. And one of those lessons have been you can't continue helping people or elementals, well, people in this case, that don't want to get help, that cannot be helped,
Hmm.
that refuse to want to get better.
Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah. And this aspect or this being that came down seemed to be kind of damaged
mhm.
already
Yeah.
and was looking for riding the coattails of the fairy, but it left you so vulnerable. There were a lot of attacks that happened.
Mhm.
And you're through all that now. So I just want to talk about that so that people who are experiencing some of this stuff, like they have a good idea of what's happening, you know, because we're having walk-ins and walk-outs and braids and aspects from your higher being that are coming in. So all of us are changing all the time right now because we're getting more gifts, we're losing a gift, but that'll be replaced by another gift. Like there's a lot of moving around right now. And if you find yourself experiencing that, just to kind of be patient at this point, the attacks, the world or the earth is not supporting the attacks as much anymore. The earth has graduated. So we're not seeing that kind of stuff like we were. And it's safer now for those moves to be going on. Yeah. But it's been quite an experience. It felt like months and months that you were going through
Yeah.
this, even though it was more like a month.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
is true. It is true. And it's kind of like even the recovery is not a done deal in a day or a
Right.
week even. So it's been a great lesson when it comes to patience. And it also has I find I've needed to find acceptance to the limitations of having one part of your consciousness being in a state of healing and not having the same aspects and same consciousness of her that I was also very used to before. So, but ever since Strongman came along, it's been a very interesting ride. He's very feisty, he's very intensive, and he is a very straight shooter as well. So he
Mhm.
doesn't really mince words, and I really, really appreciate that. And whatever, let's say, it's not, there is I found a change. Like before, I could very easily have described myself as a kind of a hopeful dreamer. I think it's very safe to say that aspect is good as gone these days. But also, there is a different kind of it's almost like there's a different kind of a sheriff in town now. We are doing one thing at a time. He always tells me we are doing one thing at a time and we are doing it properly. And he will save no breath telling me what it means to be, to do something properly. And it's almost been like the two of us has been in healing, and he's been the strength and power holding the both of us up.
Yeah.
And I don't think the healing, to an extent it has come to right now at this point, could have come to if it wasn't for him, because there needed to be someone with the strength of a lion to withstand the situation and to kind of recreate everything
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
with only limited resources. When we think about the two of them came together, and I saw the spiraling of the consciousnesses together and fusing into together. And but the thing is, part of that union was absent, and he was basically holding up the fort all by himself.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think any lesser man could have done that, really. And the
No,
job is still not done.
no, he's still busy. He's super busy.
Very,
Yeah.
yeah,
He
he is.
reminds me of a Scottish Highlander with a kilt,
Yeah,
you know,
yes, he does.
lots of hairy appendages.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Um, but very strong, very straight
yeah.
forward. Really
He
letting
is.
you know what he needs you to do for your body so
Oh,
that
and he's
you
giving
can get
me
well.
even my dietary changes has been extraordinary. I would
Yeah.
never have believed what he's making me eat these days. And but you do what you have to do. And he's given me cravings for things that I wasn't eating before. But that is what my physical body at the moment needs.
Right.
And I remember because, I was kind of getting a tongue lashing because I couldn't chuck down certain broths, etc. Because I started to basically heave at the very stench of it. And he was like, I will give you the cravings. And oh boy, did he ever.
Yeah, I know. Dana's been sending me pictures of her breakfast. And I'm like, oh, I couldn't eat it. So, but food is medicine, and that's what he's doing right now. So
Yeah,
it's beautiful to watch that you're getting so much better.
yeah, I do feel
Yeah.
so much better.
Yeah. So let's kind of describe the different. So your body has consciousness.
Yeah.
Every body has consciousness. And then you have your higher being, which most of us, our higher beings are now integrating as our crystalline body is being built. And it's basically the crystalline body is there, but it's being integrated. And the higher being is coming down one piece at a time, is how I've seen it. And it's a beautiful thing because we're becoming more and more whole. But then also we have some people that are getting like an additional soul, which is what Dana's having. So she's going to have two combined into one, almost like a marriage inside of her own body, which is,
It is a
yeah,
perfect partnership.
yeah. And then people have the walkouts and the walk-ins, and you actually experienced a partial walkout with the one who
Hmm.
was not holding up on his end of the bargain.
Yeah,
Yeah.
bye.
Yeah, goodbye. So It's just amazing. So if you notice somebody's personality like changes, then
Mhm.
they probably had something go on like that. It isn't necessarily good for them to know because they need to come to that realization on their own. But it's just an amazing thing what's going on right now. And I think it's part of ascension. A lot of this has to do with ascension, which
I think so.
we're in the middle of, like it's going. Yeah.
Mhm. And it feels so good.
Yeah. Yeah. So you have a fairy and a strong man that live within you.
Yes.
Yeah.
A perfect combination of absolute femininity and absolute masculinity. And I think it's been wonderful because all my life I've been so much into the feminine energy that there hasn't been balance with the feminine and the masculine. And it almost like everything feels so much calmer now. And I was really because of the fairy queen and all the lives, because we all share, we have so much, humans are extraordinary, we have DNA from different lifetimes we've shared, not just as humans but everywhere we've been. Ps, there is no junk DNA. It's there for a reason. You've acquired it along the way, so you have all the memory. It's just not active. You haven't just remembered those memories yet, but it's there. And I've traveled through so many lives in lifetimes that I've been flying and I've been swimming. So as a child, I had obsession of jumping so high I never come back down. And I was so frustrated when I couldn't do that. And I told everybody, I know it's doable. Why can't I do it? I have the scars to prove that I've been banging my head through the bookshelves and everything because I've been jumping down from all kinds of high places. And I went to the lakes before I could swim because I saw no reason to swim because I didn't want to be atop of water. I needed to be underneath. And miraculously, here I still am. But the thing about these different elements in which we have existed before is that for me, I came to this life lacking basically the ability to ground myself. And before, let's say, the activation of also the more negative ones, I used to always go to the forest just because I needed that groundedness. And now it feels like I'm carrying that groundedness within me, and it has big, strong, hairy arms and legs and kilt that hopefully stays down most of the time.
Right.
But otherwise, I still because I couldn't, for the life of me, I couldn't ground myself, especially living in an apartment building, situated quite high from the surface level. I mean, in every desk, I have these stones and crystals, and I just, still instinctually, just hold them just to be able to ground myself.
Mhm.
But I don't feel that separateness now from the ground, from the base level of this planet. Whereas before, I always felt like I even went close to a tree, I felt my spirit starting to travel someplace because it was almost like I had no ties to this level of life here. And now it feels energetically, it feels like I'm knee deep in the soil because that's how steady everything feels.
Mhm. Well, and that's
Mhm.
what you needed too.
Yes.
So it finally worked, finally came
Yeah.
together. And the fairy queen needs, she needed somebody to lean on as
Yeah.
well.
She did.
So
She did
they'll
because she
balance each
ended up,
other.
yeah, she ended up trying to heal and keep up this person that wasn't adequate to his job. That was the soul integration before the strongman. So he wasn't any help to her. He actually was hindrance to her, and he was feeding from her energies because he needed her to keep him going.
Yeah.
And it was like the fairy queen was fighting. She was protecting me. She was fighting for me. She was fighting for herself. She was fighting for the fairies of light. She was fighting against all the dark elementals. She was fighting basically for so many parties that she was completely tasked. It was like there was nothing left in her. She was always on the fight mode.
Mhm.
And that's why the strong man needed to come,
Yeah.
because she needed him. We needed him. And when I say we, I mean basically me. I needed him because our consciousnesses are not separated from us. It's almost like the consciousness is us.
It is. It is us.
Mm.
Okay, so one of the things I want to bring up is how this actually happened. Like, what did it look like when it went down? So basically, we could see, and there was more than one healer helping Deana during this time, but we could see this being kind of in a natural area. It looked, like a meadow or something. And he kept turning and walking away. And the question that was being put to him is, are you going to stay and stand and help, or are you going to go? Because you're not allowed to just sit outside the body and watch her suffer while you continue to feed, energy to you and not to her. So that being actually left, it was exited because it couldn't make up its mind. And that was the male aspect, that it was missing some parts on its own. Like there were some things that weren't quite, I don't know what you want to say, but they weren't quite whole within it. And it had to do with some of the galactic stuff that's going on. Some of its pieces were missing, right? So it did not hold up its end of the bargain, that consciousness. And we went looking for one that would. And the strong man is who stepped forward and agreed to that contract to be with the fairy and to live within Deana's body and to be the balancing and also the protective aspect that she needed. So that was quite an experience, something I've never experienced before. And it was beautiful to watch and to participate in. But that's basically how it happened. And if your third eye is open, you get to see a lot of this interesting things that go on. And one of those is the Akashic records and the aspects of having having access to it. And it's basically the universe, So everything within the universe is contained in the Akash. And everything you need to know is contained within the Akash. And that was a beautiful, beautiful experience. So thankful that he stepped forward. Yeah. Your cat.
I'm so thankful you made all of that happen. Because
Yeah. Well,
I didn't
yeah.
know when I just woke up, I was so just surprised. Why didn't I faint when I walked across the room? Because the night before, I needed to take a pause. There was a strategic chair waiting for me because I needed to take a pause and take a breather so I can carry on the next couple of meters to the loop. And then I didn't. It was almost almost as if there was nothing wrong with my legs. They were just, walking me the hobbit's tail there and back again. And
Yeah.
only when I got back to bed, I was like, what's happened? How did that happen? And it was only later that day that I found out about the strongman.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I saw him immediately. I heard him immediately. He gave me very clear and loud marching orders, what to eat and where to go and what to buy.
Mm-hmm.
And it was amazing. It was almost like I had, and at that point, the fairy queen still was kind of a more present because she hadn't gone completely into healing because they started to heal together first. And I saw them spiraling and filling up and integrating fully. So they started the healing. So that the two of them actually were talking, but mostly the strongman because she was just so happy to feel supported.
Yeah.
So but everything, I was like, I can't get used to this. I mean, I have parking spaces right next to shop doors, and I'm being told what to get from where to get it, easily, readily cubed and prepared, and this and that. And all of that was like, this is tremendously handy. I was even told which lane to take because when I started to feel quite dizzy, he told me, okay, now it's time to leave back home. And it was a bit of a drive because we actually went to the shops that were, a little farther. So he told me which lanes to take, and I was like, I don't know because there's going to be intersection, etc. And he was like, trust me, take this lane. And I took the lane, and that was the lane that took me, fastest because it was rush hour. So it was almost like everything was like this beautifully beautiful choreography the whole day.
Mm-hmm.
The first day after the both of them had been fully integrated, the queen was already there. I mean, this is
Yeah.
this is her place. This is her kind of a crib. So but when he got integrated as well, it was almost like I could see her ease up, and it was kind of a like letting go. And she was just happy for the partnership. And she was feeling so joyful and so happy. And in a day and two, I found out she started to kind of a more go into this resting place, and she was talking less and less, and he was talking more and more. And then she just went completely quiet and she was sleeping, almost like, getting rehabbed back to the land of the living. And he was kind of taking care of business and holding up the fort. That's
Mm-hmm.
how it went. It was almost like this beautiful balancing act that happened. So he created space for her to feel safe and to be able to go into healing. And that's simultaneously what my physical body did as well when the consciousness went into healing.
Right.
That's part of consciousness,
Right.
to be more precise.
Well, and I think it's important for people to know, like, the body has some of its own consciousness, but when a soul like completely steps out of a body and stays out of the body, that the human body starts to kind of fall apart after a while. Like, it
Mm.
really doesn't do as well because
No.
that energy inside of the body is really helpful to maintaining life.
Yeah,
And
and it's
yeah,
needed.
it's really needed. So I think this is beautiful. And
It is.
we really look forward to hearing how it's going, because I know the Fairy Queen she's there and she's getting well. And pretty soon you're going to get more input from her as well.
Mhm.
So let's see how they do together.
I think
Yeah. I think
if
they'll do
he's just,
beautifully, but it might be fun at
yeah, I
first.
mean, she was just so happy to have him in the beginning and
Hmm.
to have someone with wits about, basically.
Yeah.
And just to have some, spine to do what is right. So
Yeah.
I think she's going to be absolutely happy with him.
I do.
And when she gets more of her strength back, I'm also going to be absolutely happy for the both of us, because I'm starting to miss that feminine energy, because I've been made to eat only man food. And
Right.
a friend of my
Well,
accent told me, "You're becoming a vampire."
I think the magic is going to be beautiful to see as she really gains her full power again.
Yeah.
It's just an amazing thing, really. So we just wanted to start talking about it with everybody. And
Yeah.
Dana's going to continue the conversation on her channel.
Oh
And
yeah.
if you've had any kind of experience like this, or if you have people around you that have started to change, I honestly think this is a really important conversation for right
Mm.
now, because the next 2 years, there could be a lot of this happening. And part of what's happening is our gifts are installing, and that's coming from our higher being. And it's a beautiful thing to watch.
Mm. It's
Yeah.
kind of like I'd like to use the analogy of a sea.
Yeah.
You can't fight the sea. The currencies are so strong. That I said it wrong now, because I actually once fought the currencies of the sea, and that's another reason I'm here today. But the sea has enormous force. The waves come into the shore and then they withdraw, and it's kind of like this ebb and flow of life. And if you find yourself finding new aspects or new, even he's telling me to tell everybody, if you find yourself being all of a sudden being interested in something you haven't been interested in before, go and find out about that, because that might be where your gifts are hiding or sleeping, or that might be where a new aspect of yourself is finding this joy of creation, finding connection to source. So don't fight these changes. The planet has stepped into higher gear, better place now. And I would like to claim now here that we don't have to expect anything tremendously negative to happen in the energy world. On the contrary, we are getting adjusted to these higher vibrations that the planet is now in. And these soul integrations, these consciousness changing in consciousnesses and braidings are one aspect of reaching those higher frequencies. So don't fight them, embrace them, and find out the new aspects of yourself or your loved ones, and allow them to come and just have a conversation with your intuition. What is there new for me to find? What is there something that needs to leave in order for the new aspects to come in? It's not a scary place. It's
Mm.
I don't believe nothing these days would happen that would be tremendously detrimental to us. So
Yeah.
look at the situation from a place of wonderment, from a place of excitement. If you try and find how your inner child would feel when they get a new toy, play with it and have fun.
Absolutely. That's
Mm.
beautiful. Thank you, Dana. And thank you
Thank you.
for being willing to talk about all of this.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful, wonderful, very new life experience, and it has brought nothing but positivity, regardless of the lack now of my scented candles. But I might have a couple of, left in the storage from my old hoardings.
Yeah.
And
Well, I
I
have
think
a
when you
feeling
go,
the Fairy Queen will rectify that situation.
yeah, me too. I think we need to gang up a little bit, you know, to to gain some healthy balance with everything.
Yeah. Yeah. It's going to be
Diet-wise
beautiful.
as well.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
everybody.